Hi, everyone. I'm Dmae Roberts, executive producer of MediaRites, and I'd like to welcome you to the first premiere of the Ism Project films. The Ism Project was first a theater piece addressing the intersections of race, gender, orientation, and national origin. During the shutdown, due to COVID 19, we adapted our stage pieces into creative films. We asked our writers to adapt their monologues into films that could be safely produced. And so this is very exciting because this is our first film that we're going to premiere right now, and it's Ruega Por Mi, written by Yasmin Ruvalcaba, and it's performed by Yolanda Porter. And they're here with us today. I'd like to welcome them today. Hi, Yasmin and Yolanda.
Hello, hi everybody.
Hi, Dmae.
And
Thank you for having
it's
us.
so great. It's so great. And with them is Cristina Delgado of Andalate Mujeres to talk about the Immigrant Solidarity Project. Sorry about that, Cristina, but I want to welcome you. Thank you for joining our conversation.
Thank you for the invitation. Good afternoon, everyone.
So first off, we're going to watch this all together, and you, the audience, will also get to watch it with us, which is very exciting. And then we're going to come back with a really enlightening conversation. I'm so excited to have these three remarkable women to talk about this film and also the issues that it brings up. And it's a short film. It's about 17 minutes, I think, and not more than that. And I hope you enjoy it, and we'll be right back.
Ángel de mi guarda, de mi dulce compañía, no me desampares, ni de noche ni de día. Angelito mío, where did you go? Angelito mío, who do you hold dentro de tus brazos? Angelito mío, ruega, ruega a Dios. Ruega por mi Eva, ruega por mí. Esperanza? Yes, it's Camila. Can you hear me? I thought you weren't going to be able to call me this week. No, it's not a bad time. I was just praying. No, está bien, I just finished. I've been really trapped in my own mind lately. Praying, breathing, finding a moment to connect to something other than me. I've needed it, even if just for a minute. ¿Sabes? I don't think I've stopped praying for the last couple of months. There was a moment when my prayers seemed lost, but this current need and fear has brought them back. You've been in my prayers, Esperanza. You and all your familia. I was. I couldn't believe. I'm so sorry to hear about Samuel. See, he was so hardworking. I know. He was working in meat packing, right? I heard that so many were affected by the COVID in those types of jobs. Your poor cousin. Like you said, he had to work. What else could he do? He had to put his family first. No puedo creer that you weren't able to see him while he was sick. Es bueno that you were able to stay with his esposa and his children while he was in the hospital. The kids didn't even get to say goodbye? I know. One minute, their dad is working hard to provide for them, and the next day, he's gone. Not getting to say goodbye and hold him one final time. Not getting to hear him say, I love you. I'm so sorry, Esperancita. Your tios are being checked on. They haven't left their home since they heard the news. But todas las familias, we've been taking turns, taking them food and spending time with them. I will do everything I can to be there for your family, just like you've always been there for me, Esperanza. So many people are getting sick. Tanta gente left with their lives torn apart. It made me so worried. Worried for my Evita. I know you've been with your family and dealing with so much yourself, Esperanza, but I have to ask. Have you found out anything? Any news on my daughter? Esperanza? Are you there? Oh. Nothing. I know, no, I know. You're doing everything you can, Esperanza. Ya sé. And I owe you my life for all your help. I was hopeless. I was lost. But you were there and were the first person I knew I could turn to. I never thought it would be so hard to find out if she's in one of those detention centers. Or I never thought we just wouldn't know what would happen. I mean, how? How did they disappear? Almost as if they had never existed. As if I had never held my daughter in my arms. No, I can't keep thinking about it, Esperanza. Me vuelve loca. ¿Sabes qué? I may already be going a little crazy, if I'm being honest. I had such a dream the other night. I was wandering el bosque among the never-ending trees, and I heard something or someone calling for me. Era un llanto, a soft but piercing cry. I wondered who cries out into our eternal night. Solo conozco a una. Has she finally come for me? Is her llanto a warning or a revelation of truth? Has she come knocking on my door with an extra black veil in her hands, ready to crown me her sister? Has my child joined yours? Running together in the afterlife? Shall we wail together now? Mira, yo también puedo llorar como tú. Tú lloras por los tuyos y yo lloro por la mía. Together, we can search for their lost souls. We can search for my Evita. Deja lloro contigo. And that's how I woke up, calling out for La Llorona. Escúchame, Esperanza. Van a decir que soy la loca del pueblo. Dear Camila, lost her mind. Last I heard, of her. She was screaming into the night sky and ran away with a herd of deer. Even if the Llorona was here to claim my soul, I probably scared her away. I thought I did the right thing. I wanted Eva to be okay. You know? The day I sat her down and told her she was going on a long adventure with her tío and tía. Ella estaba tan emocionada. Will you go too, Mommy? Hope radiated from her eyes as she held my hands. I'll be joining you soon, mija, left my lips. But la voz inside screamed and screamed. Don't let her go. Don't send her away. Hold her tight. Hold her forever. When my brother arrived at my door, casi a la 1 de la madrugada, I was terrified. Nobody knocks on your door at 1 in the morning without a cloud of darkness following their footsteps, ready to sip into a new home. But it was my brother, his wife, and mi sobrino. Right at the door, backpacks on, a car left running. Camila, we're leaving, he kept speaking. Pero la única palabra que se repetía por mi cabeza, leaving, leaving, leaving. Then I heard him utter, Evita. Her name brought me back to attention. ¿Qué estaba diciendo? ¿Qué dijiste? Deja que nos llevemos a Evita. Camila, she needs to go with us. Camila, escucha. Camila, please listen. Camila, Caca, cállate. Por favor, cállate. I need to think. My brother held my hands. Wake her up, Camila. It's time. We walked to her room, and there she was. I knelt by her bed, running my hand over her cheek and through her hair. I held her tiny hand, still only half the size of mine. Mi Evita, el ángel de mi vida. I take in her long eyelashes that seem to go in 20 directions. Through her little pursed lips, I see her missing tooth. I count the number of lunares on her face. 1, 2, 3. And then I see it. I see the face of our little vecina who was taken a month ago, only 8 years old. I see my primo's son, 12, and he's been missing for a year. I see todos los niños que lloraron por sus papás. And I know what I must do. And I could do this not because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't, but because I had faith that she would be all right. I can still see her eyes lighting up as I say, Despiértate, mija. You're going on an adventure. When does faith run out, Esperanza? We've been searching and searching, waiting and waiting. First for a month, and then 6. And now, it's been over a year, Esperanza. I keep hoping that one of these days you'll call me and tell me that she's been found at one of the detention centers. And now, even that has become a nightmare on its own. Muerte surrounds those places. All we see in the news are body bags or the ever-increasing number of those missing. And those numbers continue to rise and rise as this enfermedad takes over. I wanted to save my daughter. But I might just have handed her over the disease, made worse by a country that promises freedom, but in reality lets our children die. It's so hard to have hope. Esperanza, can you pray with me? Ángel de mi guarda, ruega a Dios por mí. Ruega for the unknown, the lost families, the lost and missing faces, locked behind bars with the boys on earth, names lost to the wind. Ruega for all the closed eyes on their sterile sheets, hands clasped together, asking for their families to finally be at peace. Ruega for the unknown, that ages the heart and leaves rosaries worn. Ruega por mí, ruega por ti.
Thank you for joining us during this premiere of Ruega Por Mi by Yasmin Ruvalcaba. And I'm still moved every time I see Yolanda Porter's wonderful performance there, very moving. MediaRites has been adapting and transforming the monologues from the stage version of the Ism Project into these short films. And 2 were filmed with a crew of 4, social distancing at Shaking the Tree Studios, which donated their space to us. Thank you, Shaking the Tree. But this one you just saw was self-filmed by Yolanda Porter, her husband and daughter. So with us is the writer who will be moderating this talk, Yasmin Ruvalcaba Saludado, and she's a Portland-based director, writer, and arts advocate. Yasmin is currently working at Advanced Gender Equity in the Arts as the operations manager, and Yasmin is also a director. She was honored to be the assistant director of La Ruta at Artist Repertory Theater and The Island in Winter at Bag and Baggage Productions. And also with us is Yolanda Porter. She's performed in several productions at Milagro Theater and is a graduate of Portland Actors Conservatory. She's been in multiple film, TV, and theater productions, as well as dozens of commercials. And Cristina Delgado of Adelante Mujeres is the Leadership and Immigrant Solidarity Project manager there. And we're so thrilled to have you here as well, Cristina. So I'm turning it over to Yasmin, and I'm going to be enjoying listening to this talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Dmae, and thank you to MediaRites and everyone involved in these projects for making these films become a reality and something we can present to all of you. I'm really honored to have Yolanda and Cristina here with us today to talk about the film and talk about some of the work they do. First of all, I love to talk a little bit about how this project came together. I was originally invited by MediaRites to write another short monologue for the Ism Project. This was, I believe, before all the lockdown, before all the shutdown back in 2019, which seems so far away now. But as we, kind of began to shut down in 2020 and were unsure of live performance, live theater, and what we could do moving forward, I was invited to turn that monologue into this short film. And it's been a work in progress, and Yolanda took it off my hands and created this masterpiece that we were able to see today. So I'm excited to hear about how that experience went. So I'd love to kick off with talking about that a little bit. Yolanda, how was your experience working on this project safely from home and getting to work on it with your husband and your daughter, as Dmae mentioned?
Well, it was a great experience. My work has been always so foreign for my family, because they always get to see just the end product. They don't get to know how the behind the camera works. So my husband he had to dive in, and my daughter too. And it was really, really great having their support and getting them all involved in how this process works, and all the details that you have to take into account. And it was a learning process for all of us, but it was really good. I gotta say, the experience was great. And now they have a better understanding of how we do what we do.
How did your daughter take part in the experience and how was it working with her in those little filmed moments?
She is very, I love that she has a really good eye for the behind the camera, because a lot of those moments that we see of myself, she helped. She was like, no, Dad, it's like, what if you do it from here? Or she will literally be like, all right, let me do it. And she will take the camera and do it herself. It was really interesting to see her view and her take about the project, even though she didn't talk much about it. I think in the beginning, I thought that she didn't really have an understanding of what was going on, but she did. She just was very, she took it really as a personal journey, I guess. And she was just like, okay, I'll help you. And yeah, she internalized everything. And but she was open to say, like, what if you do it like this, or let me do it like that, and she's kind of shy in front of the camera, but once she's there, she's like, okay, it's okay. I love working with her.
I love it. It was great to see her involved in the project. And what was kind of your initial response getting to see the finished product the first time, or getting to see it again today? Just some initial thoughts that came to mind to you.
Well, I can't help to see, like, oh yeah, I remember when doing that, or because I was there. But it's it's wonderful to see it, with the music and with those images. It's like, I'm like, wow, it's telling the story, which is the goal, right? So yeah, it was interesting, and I gotta say, it's great. I love this piece. So What can I
Thank you,
say?
Yoli. Thank you. And I'd love to turn over to Cristina and ask a little bit about your initial responses and getting to see this video with us today. And I know you got a chance to see it a little beforehand as well.
Yes, well, first of all, again, thank you for the invitation and also for the wonderful work that everyone has put into this great film that shares the story of many people who have a similar experience that they have been through or that they are currently going through. And so I just want to appreciate every one of you who had collaborated in this wonderful project, and also to acknowledge everyone who is going through this difficult situation and who is still not together with their family members. And I want to recognize that and let you know that we see you and that we are in solidarity in this journey. My first reactions to the film was that it was just very moving and very powerful. Very, very powerful. As I was watching it, I just had to take some deep breaths and really having to just, it made me reflect on a lot of the stories that I have heard from community members doing the work that we do with the Immigrant Solidarity Project. It made me also reflect on my own experience, my own immigration experience in the US. And it made me also reflect about the many things that are still going on with injustices in the area of immigration, in detention centers. And it made me really think about the so many ways on how we can definitely take action on these important issues, and just the strength that so many people have in making tough decisions, making very, very tough decisions, and in the journey, making a lot of sacrifices. And in this film, one of the things that really touched me was the section or the moment when they talk about losing a family member and not being able to say goodbye. And I just feel like that's something that I've been hearing very lately with us going through this pandemic, and immigrant families not being able to even say goodbye to someone who is very close to us. In general, everything was beautiful. And again, I appreciate the work that everyone has been doing in this project. For sure, the separation of families and the children that continue to be missing in detention centers is definitely an issue that should be raised and that should continue to be talked about, regardless whether we are in a new administration. It is still something that we need to continue to advocate for. And we have also seen an increase of COVID cases in detention centers that have been ignored. And that is something that should not be happening. Detention centers in general should be a system that should be abolished, and all people should be free. And I think that the film touches on so many different aspects of the things that we are currently living on with the topic of immigration. And it really shows us the inequities within the system as well as the stress and the mental, how a lot of people are also dealing with problems related to mental health and high levels of stress, because not only financial difficulties, but also being apart from their family members, or perhaps someone who in our family or someone that we know is currently going through this difficult situation of having someone who is in a detention center.
Thank you, Cristina. Something that you said that I think really stood out to me as well when I first got to see the film is that strength element, which is really difficult to portray. And Yolanda, you did such an amazing, beautiful job. I think when I was first writing this, one of the things that kept coming to my mind was what a parent, a family, like a community has to go through to make a decision to send a child away, to make the decision. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a village also to make these kind of choices. And it just shows how important, this isn't just oh, let me quickly decide to do this. It takes time, it takes dedication, and there's a reasoning behind, why we have children seeking asylum in this country right now. And it is detrimental to see, them just being locked up or turned away when asylum should be something we talk about. I think for me, one of the biggest things as well is this was a reminder to why I switched to theater, why I switched to film, to telling stories. I was, back in my original days, I was planning on going to law school. I was going to be an immigrant rights lawyer. That's what I was going to do. But I realized there is a power to storytelling. There's a power to get it, telling people what's going on in our world. When they won't listen to the news, maybe they'll listen to art, maybe they'll listen to a film. And so that was kind of one of my initial responses as well, getting to see this for the first time, that I saw why I made that choice and why we're all here today. So thank you both again for those thoughts and comments. Cristina, I'd love to know a little bit more about the Immigrant Solidarity Collaborative with Adelante Mujeres and, the work they're doing in Washington County, in Portland, Oregon, and what's going on with that work.
The Immigrant Solidarity Collaborative is a collective work of 7 different organizations in Washington County, and to name them, it includes Adelante Mujeres, Bienestar, Centro Cultural, Community Action, Dreamers Resource Center, SOAR, and Virginia Garcia, and all of us together are the Solidarity Collaborative. This collaborative began when the previous administration started, and it was a response to the fear and trauma that immigrant families were facing. And in general, it was a response to the need and priorities identified by Spanish-speaking families in Washington County. And how we respond is through education, resource sharing, and organizing work. The ultimate goal that we hope to accomplish with this collective work is to live in a community where all immigrant families feel safe, have knowledge about their rights, and support one another with resources, and are ready to respond and advocate when needed. Also at the heart of the project are the promotores de apoyo con la comunidad inmigrante. Promotores are first or second generation immigrants who respond to the needs and priorities identified by Spanish-speaking immigrant families in Washington County. So that's a little bit about us, the collaborative, and what we do, but we collaborate with many organizations, not just in Washington County, but also statewide. And we do a lot of collective work in organizing, but more than anything, we have been working with promotores and community members and together sharing information about immigration updates, immigration resources. And with immigration, there's so many things changing it seems like on a daily basis, on a very often basis. And we do incorporate a lot of educational sections into everything that we do. We do know your rights in the community, as well as certifying people to do those trainings. And yes, we do listening sessions, and we do try to listen to community members to see what they need, and to really provide those leadership opportunities so that community members can be the ones identifying the issues that are impacting them, and also them having the power to make very significant and long-lasting change. And we really want to center their voices and have community members directly impacted by these issues to really guide our work and to be at the center of everything that we do.
And with all that work, are there any specific immigration priorities that have been identified by the community right now that are really a focus for the work you're doing?
Right now, we know that with the new administration coming in, and there has been a lot of questions and, of course, hopes on what this new administration would bring to the immigrant community. And we know that that's a priority. That's a priority for us as a collaborative, as well as for community members, to really push for a comprehensive immigration reform that would cover everyone. And that would include dreamers, that would include TPS holders, asylum seekers, everyone who is currently struggling with being in the U.S. and not being able to be provided with the services and to be able to apply for a path to residency or citizenship. That is definitely one of the priorities. We continue to monitor at the state level a couple of different bills, legislative bills that are currently going to be offered like hearings, and legislators will be voting on these priorities. And there's a couple of them that will be related to immigrant rights. And I do encourage community members to check out the webpage of Causa of Oregon, which is one of the largest organizations in the state of Oregon that does immigration work. And they will be having advocacy days and will be training community members about this particular bills that would make a positive impact in the lives of immigrant families in the state of Oregon. So again, we want to make sure that those priorities are, we are working on those priorities at the federal level or national level. It would be the immigration reform comprehensive plan for everyone, and at the state level, it would be a push for some of those priorities that we know would benefit community members, as well as making sure that we're still in a pandemic, and we want to make sure that community members are still having access to resources in their own language regarding the COVID vaccines and regarding resources related to health issues. And that's another priority that we're currently focusing on.
Thank you, Cristina, for that. And then kind of along these lines of, you know, the storytelling element and touching on current issues, I'd like to ask Yolanda a question here. What was your experience diving into the story, recognizing that it's not, you know, a historical event or a fictional story, but something that, you know, we're seeing in our newspapers, you know, sadly in some moments less than other times, but, you know, it's an active new social issue that we're being faced with every day. How was your experience working with that?
Well, it was heartbreaking at times, but also was the fuel that helped me, you know, like to realize that this is a story that we need to tell. We need to make and create awareness that this is a big issue. And even though we don't see it every day, or we don't see it on the news all the time, because like you said, it's probably second page. And it also looks like it's too far away, it's too foreign, we're so detached. And it's heartbreaking, you know, and we have to create awareness and help people understand that these issues are happening to real people, you know, people like us, people like everybody, you know, their parents, their mothers and daughters and fathers, and, you know, so it was a very interesting and also eye-opening, you know, because myself included felt like a little detached from these issues, when in reality they're so close to us, and we have to see them like that. You know, we have to understand that these are real people and we can do something. And even if it's or we feel that it's too little what we can do, it's something, you know, it's better to do something than nothing. And telling this story is a way to reach people and tell them, hey, pay attention. This might not be on your radar all the time, but it's happening. It doesn't mean that it's not there. It is happening. So let's do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And then to kind of follow up with that, it's a question for both of you. So whoever kind of wants to take the lead here, or I can direct to one specifically first. But what role do we see art, you know, art, storytelling, film playing, you know, play and telling these kind of stories? What impact do we see with art form taking on these narratives?
I can I can start, and I do see art playing a huge role in telling the story. Just this is an example. The film, it was wonderful. It would be a channel for many community members to be able to see themselves, their own stories, as a way to do some advocacy work and share the message about these topics that are very critical and that are having an impact in the community. And we have seen in history that art has really played a very important role in making changes in history, in our social movements. But I do see art as a way to continue motivating people to take action, because a lot of times I feel like some community members might feel comfortable like making a phone call or doing lobbying, going to a march, but that might not be the case for everyone. And this is another way to advocate and another way to organize through art, through music, through writing, to poetry. And everything counts when we're talking about making a very profound change. So I can see how this would be very beneficial also for youth as well. We know that the engagement of everyone in the community in taking action on these topics is critical, and I can also see how art can definitely play a big role in encouraging younger generations to be a part of these conversations.
Well, I agree with Cristina, and yeah, I see art playing a big role. You know, with art, we can tell all these stories, and we can engage people at many different levels, and let them know what is going on. You know, whether it's an immigrant story or people of color suffering some injustice. You know, there's so many things that need to be told, that art is a way to reach a huge number of people and also help them see and understand from another point of view, not just from the point of view of the viewer necessarily, but from the point of view of a human being, you know, just a person. And art is I think it's an incredible way to reach people and to tell them about all these things that are happening, and hopefully make them think or you know, like, and take action, do something about it, create change. It's a great way to create change.
There's definitely impact that's created. And I remember for myself, one of my first small monologues that I wrote back in college was about a child representing themselves in court without any kind of advocacy. And that was in 2017, and we're still here today. So, you know, it's been a slow trip, but at the same time, you know, I remember that was an audience of a classroom of 30. This, you know, luckily because of where we are, is going to be a bigger audience and having more people listen. And I think it's that impact, but also that access. I'm excited about the fact that we have people that, you know, look like me, that, you know, come from similar backgrounds, that get to see these stories being told. They get to see, you know, people like ourselves having these discussions and being, you know, voices of authority and power in having these conversations. So I think that's also a great element. Thank you both for that. And Yoli, kind of looking again at the media form, I know you had a couple of chances, I think I'm correct, to do the live performance of it. Maybe it was just once or twice. How was the shift, you know, from doing a live performance to doing a film? Did that change your view on the story at all, or was there any impact in that change?
Well, it didn't necessarily change my view of the story, but you know, film creates a more intimate environment to tell the story. So rather than feeling like I'm telling the story to this group of people, it is more like a one-on-one situation. It's like I'm telling the story to each and every person that is looking, you know, at me doing this or telling them this. So I feel like it brought me closer to the story and closer to the audience, also to tell them, hey, look, this what's happening to me, you know, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm feeling. and more like it's more intimate. That's my takeaway, I should say.
Thank you. Now I was just really interested in seeing how that shift played. Thank you. And then kind of going back to something we were all kind of touching on for a minute, there is that call to action that, hoping that the audience takes this piece and wants to do something, wants to, take an action. I was just wondering, Cristina, through the work you're doing, are there any specific calls to action that you would like the community to be aware of, to take right now, whether it's local or a national level?
Yes, I would say sharing this project, so there will be an opportunity to share the stories of community members through this type of projects, wonderful projects that are currently in the community, and that would hopefully raise awareness within the community about these important topics. So that's always my first call to action. It's really continuing that education within ourselves. I myself still have to learn so much about the topic in ways and how I can involve myself to make change. But that could be one. Continue our education about this topic, as well as calling our representatives. I think that's very powerful when we have a chance to call our representatives, call our U.S. Representatives as well, Congress people, to encourage them to close deportation centers, to free them all. There's a campaign on Free Them All that's being led by national community organizations as a way to advocate for everyone to be free. And also at the state level, there's wonderful organizations. And again, we thank everyone for inviting us today and to share a little bit about the work that we do. But there's wonderful organizations. I mentioned Causa, and there's so many other across the state of Oregon that are working to support immigrant rights. And that's another opportunity if we are able to help, either by donating time or donating resources. It could also be donating our time to maybe sponsor someone who is getting released from detention, or maybe someone who is an asylum seeker and is having a really difficult time in navigating the system, or finding an attorney. And that's something that we might be able to do as a collective and also as individuals. So that would be my call to action. And of course, as I mentioned, there's so many things going on at the Oregon legislature. So I encourage people who are in support of immigrant rights to check out Causa's page and to be more informed about what those legislative bills are. And that could be another way to take action, by attending the upcoming advocacy days and hearing, providing testimonies. That could be another option as well.
Thank you, Cristina, for all the amazing work you're doing again. Yolanda, I'd love to hear, are there any final thoughts you'd love our audience to take away from this film, from this discussion, this opportunity?
Well, yeah, I would like to, I want to humanize these people, I want the audience to see them as real parents, and maybe identify themselves with them as a father, as a mother, and see the big sacrifice that they have to make to protect their kids, that this is not lightly thought, that it's not just because they want to send them away for X or Y reason. It's like there's a lot behind, and they are usually protecting them and doing this to save their lives, in hope for a better future for all of them. So yeah, I would like people to reflect and get involved, educate ourselves, and think before we vote, think before who we choose to represent us, be more active. And these are not times to be dormant. These are times to take action and speak up and really, really pay attention to what's going on, because our decisions
we've all seen affect everybody, not just one or two or a group of people. It affects us all. So we need to pay attention and really educate ourselves and think before we choose.
Thank you both so much again. I just want to echo everything you've both said. I think, this is an opportunity to not only listen, but take this action, whether it's internal, whether it's actually in community-based or at a national level. But, even the smallest step of recognizing that this is something that is affecting so many, I think is really important. So thank you both again for being here with us today. And thank you, Dmae and MediaRites, for giving us this opportunity.
I'm so moved. I want to thank each of you. This has been such an enlightening and important conversation. Thank you to Yasmin Ruvalcaba, Cristina Delgado, and Yolanda Porter. And I really appreciate the time you've taken today. We also want to thank here at MediaRites all our funders, but a special thank you to Oregon Humanities for providing this forum to discuss these issues for the Ism Project, or the Ism Project films. And MediaRites is premiering 2 more films, short films, about women of color, by women of color, for this Women's History Month. And I just want to give a shout out for the upcoming films. The Diversity Thing, March 21st at 2 p.m., written by Bonnie Ratner and Roberta Hunt, and performed by Shelley B. Shelley. And Being Me in the Current America, on March 28th at 2 p.m., written by Josie Seed, performed by Shireen Jacobs. Both of them will be premiering on Facebook and later on YouTube. Find out more about these films and how to watch them at MediaRites.org and also on Facebook at the MediaRites page. Thank you to the panelists, and thank you all for listening and watching and joining us today. I'm Dmae Roberts saying till next time.